Hi Rahul, good afternoon. Thanks for taking time out. And everyone, Rahul is a product designer with more than 5 years of experience. Rahul, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thanks Salil for inviting me on this podcast from Versatile. I'm very excited to be a part of this and appreciate your efforts on conducting podcasts like this, wherein in today's generation there has been numerous UX designers, product designers coming out in the market. Maybe they'll understand how things goes. So yeah, basically there has been number of trends going on in the market regarding UX and UX and UI design, product designs and all. So it is very essential for people to understand how the trends are going, how many people are thinking of switching to UX rather than continuing in their domains, or how efficient or how beneficial it would be. So things like this help a lot of them and provide clear mindset about understanding what the requirements are to such people. So thanks for inviting me on this, discussion regarding product design and UX design.
Awesome. Would love to understand, your journey on how did you get into product design, right? I believe you were on the technical bit initially in your career and then you switched. And, you started off by saying that a lot of people are today looking to switch. We'll also cover that aspect later.
Right. So basically, I am a engineer graduate from information technology. So that is my background. And right from childhood, I was very much interested, or you can say passionate about drawing and sketching things into different aspects. In Maharashtra, there is also a drawing competition held every year from Maharashtra State Board. So when I was in childhood, in my school days, I conducted that. I was a part of that exam and scored A grade, which is very very uh, aspiring at that moment, which was so. That was my childhood. I was very keen towards my passion of drawing and sketching, designing paints of on canvas and different scenarios. I also paint my wall sometimes on my interior things. So it happens. The major thing is, like, if you have passion for something, you find way one or the other to get into things. The other thing was, being an Indian, your parents always want to get into technical background, whether it be doctor or say engineer. So that made me come to engineering. I was a good student in engineering as well. So I graduated from Mumbai University in information technology. So me landing into UX design is like I already had some skills into design, attention to details of how you go ahead with things, brushstrokes and all. So once you are into that domain, you understand how things work, what all things need to be understood for you to create a product which would be uh, which would be delighted in the market. People would, appreciate your efforts. So that was the skill that I already had. And after graduation, I gained technical skills. So the combination of these two together, I decided, okay, UX design is a career that I can possess, because when I was getting into this field, it was totally new. Maybe around 8 years back, many people didn't realize what UX design was. Apple already had it, but recent some 2 to 3 years back, people understood the requirement for UX and product designers for their product to be developed, brought up in the market. But before that, the developers used to take care of all the design as well as the coding things. So the trend was booming at that time, and I thought these skills would enhance me get into this field, and that's the reason I'm here today.
Awesome. And like you said, attention to detail, right? So
Yeah.
it's like a very open-ended word. But how would you go about, let's say, if you were to look at certain case studies or UI designs, right? Could you like define what attention to detail means?
Okay, so with respect to UX design, if you go ahead, attention to details means, like, for example, if you have multiple cards aligned in on a screen, then attention to detail in that case would represent how they are hierarchically organized, whether the user is able to understand that these cards are associated with the button above or the title above, or whether the things that are aligned with the multiple scenarios. If for example, if you consider, you go with let's consider the example of Zomato here. Zomato has numerous things on its application. So in order to understand what belongs to which part of the label or which part of the section, you need to understand that this has to be created or associated with something that can be easily understood by the user. So that attention to details had to be created. I mean, there is a scenario wherein majority of the users these days are hopping onto multiple applications, and these applications don't be a part of their day-to-day activities, but there are applications which they come back to again and again. So the difference between these applications is you provide attention to details with respect to what user might be thinking, so that keeping the user in the center of the process, and then providing all the set of rules and regulations based on that while you're designing is mandatory, and that takes you down towards the attention to detail lane of path.
Got it. And in terms of, because I believe in your career you might have solved multiple problem statements. What's been like the most exciting, challenging problem statement that just, gave you like enough depth to become like a good designer at this point of time? Initially when you start a career, you don't really get deep projects, you just get more on the
Right.
execution side of things. But as you grow in your career, you go deeper into certain aspects. So what, could you pick out a problem statement that you've really worked on?
Yeah, right. So, couple of years back, I was with Players for Media Private Limited, and there we were having a problem of people not understanding how the platform works. So, Players for Media basically was into fantasy gaming, which is similar to like Dream 11, that Dream 11 other companies that are there in the market. So people usually have to create a team of 11 fantasy cricket players, and then invest their money, get some maximized profits out of it. So at that time, we were facing issues like majority of the users or say people were not understanding how this works, or they didn't have much analytical knowledge about how cricket's this point system work, and whether they would be getting enough output from the product or not. So that was the case. So what we thought, we would provide a solution which will be simpler and easier to understand. And the drawbacks of the existing platform was that people were not able to come to the application as and when needed. There was no flexibility and freedom with their point of view. So we tried to overcome this problem as well, and then came up with a product which is Stock Saga. So what users would be able to do here is like buy some stocks of the actual cricket players that are there in the in the pitch, and then based on the performance of their pitch performance in the actual matches, the stocks would rise and fall. So this is basically a easier alternative to the earlier team making games. You just buy these stocks, the performance would make you realize whether you should be going on into the similar to stock market that happens. So this was the solution that we thought we would be bringing. The challenge here, like the problem statement is already defined in this manner, but the challenge that I faced here was like I had to combine both these two different domains into a single product, which is fantasy gaming and the trading together. And the other challenge was making this was to be made simpler enough to understand to the to I mean all aspects of people that would be using this application. Majority of the people are from tier 3, tier 2 cities of India that would be using this application. So it was a huge challenge to integrate both these domains into a single product and make it more usable and easy to understand to the end user.
Interesting. So, when you said it, you worked on a problem statement towards something related to market, right? Kind
Yeah,
of trading. Um, let's think from a user's perspective. Every user who comes on this platform wants to make money, right? Because they
right,
input the money, they want to make the money. And when it's, let's say, if it's similar to stock market, they see bar charts or something or the other, candlestick charts. And I've not seen the platform yet, but I'm assuming it's kind of that
right.
going up and down. As a designer, how do you then start optimizing for retention of the users at the same time, right? users also end up making money. How do you optimize through via design?
So you basically, in this case, you have to understand who your user is. Unless and until you don't understand your target audiences or the user that would be using the application, you will not be able to crystallize this problem. So once you have the required user who would be using this application, you then divide them into different categories and different use cases. Based on these use cases, then you analyze that the different scenarios would create a different path or different user flow that the users would be taking on the platform. And then based on these different user flows, you understand how a different challenge or situation would arise with the from the point of view of the end user. So you need to consider all these scenarios together, then come out with different alternatives at different user flows. You combine them together, and then do a final analyzation of whether we should go ahead with this or understand that this is the ultimate solution, or should we go ahead again and do iterations on the research work, understand what the user actually wants. So all these things is iteration, design, research, all these things is a cycle, and unless and until you don't provide proper output to the user, which is the user finds this, okay, this is easy to understand. What you do is you just give up a simple book and a pencil to the user. You just ask him to whether do if you would be able to go ahead this path. If he lands to the end goal, then we think that okay, this is the result that the user would be using, and we are on the right path. If the output is not as intended, then we do the changes again. We do the required things. We do more research, understand the requirements again. What basically happens is in this procedure, the scope of the project should not be migrated from what you're actually building. So that also had to be kept in mind. So all these things together combine into creating a product, and as a result, you provide an output which would be benefited or useful to the end user.
Could you like go deeper into one user flow that's live right now, right? And that you guys created while building this product, and what was it trying? What was the use case trying to achieve in terms of user ending up doing? What was job to be done for the user?
Okay, so basically to understand this or to answer this, I'll put both the scenarios together, which was the earlier case with PlaySpot and the current scenario with StockSaga. So earlier, what user you have to have to do was he comes to the platform, checks on whether there is a match ongoing. If there is a match ongoing, he goes into the contest section, selects which entry fees he has to pay, then go into creating teams of two teams. There are around 30 players. From them, he has to select around 11 players if there are any backups also. But at least 11 players need to be selected, and then he submits their team before the match starts. So this was the actual scenario prior. But what happens in Stock Saga is you come to the user comes to the application anytime as he wants. He checks the players that are there, emerging players or trending players that are there on the homepage itself. He clicks on the players and analyzes the stock's performance. So, for example, in the last 5 matches, the Virat Kohli has played good matches, and he has played good. He has scored good scores, and then on the basis of that, the stock would indicate whether he should invest on Virat Kohli or not. And we also provide details as in will Virat Kohli be playing the next 5 matches that India is playing. So on the basis of that, he can put a certain amount or purchase Virat Kohli stock. And if needed, he can exit from Virat Kohli stock after 5 matches. So that would be a what say profit maximization from user's point of view. So this flow that the actual user had to do right from coming to the application, checking the matches, then going into the contest, then selecting a team, and then submitting the team for the actual match to start. This was the earlier user flow. What we did now was we just simplified it, right? Just by clicking the player stop, he just has to buy it, and based on the performance, and that's it. He doesn't have to do anything else. But the decision to buy the stock or to not go ahead in that stock, the details is already provided on the application, like statistics and analysis is every day. Everything is there on the
Right.
application itself, and based on that, now the user flow is very much simplified as compared to the earlier one.
Got it. And so I think in similar space, there are companies like Dream 11, right?
Mhm.
As a designer, what do you think? Uh, why is, let's say, Dream 11 sets itself apart in terms of design than other, um, you know, gaming companies? You can critique Dream 11 if you feel like. You can also share insights, design insights of if you've got like other gaming company that does it really better.
Yeah, so basically, Dream 11 has already acquired enormous amount of users on their platform, and majority
Mhm.
of these users are, uh, I mean, they have educated themselves on how Dream 11 works,
Okay.
and Dream 11 has already provided a part to how things would work on creating a fantasy game application, or creating team building applications like this. So
Hmm.
people who are using Dream 11 right from end, for example, say I'm using Dream 11 for us from the past 5 years, and there is a new user who is coming to the application. It There are high chances that the new user would be a friend of someone who is already using Dream 11. So what happens is
Mhm.
the person who is already using the application educates the other person on how you should use it. Or even there are multiple influencers and people that are there on the social media, making people understand how the platform works. And this has been being carried out for numerous years now, and people have been educated, and they have put the flow into their mind as this is the way the fantasy app works. Now what is happening is the players, or the new companies that are coming up with new fantasy application, they try to put their user flow, or say design flow, with respect to what Dream 11 has already done, so that the user already knows what to do and how the flow works. So
Hmm.
basically what happens is, in UX, if you know there is a cross button, the user basically right from the very start understands. So if you click on this, the thing will close. So you don't have to educate them right from start. So similarly is the case with Dream 11. They have already have uh, the audience wherein they understand how the thing works, and the new companies that are coming up in this fantasy domain try to stick to what the flow the Dream 11 has set, and come up with a design which is similar to it, so that there is no user bounce off, there is no drop off of the users, and they find it easy, or say familiar to what they have already used on other platforms.
Got it. So I think what basically, let's say, because we are talking about Dream 11 here, what they've done is they've gone viral.
Right,
Because they've gone viral, they've acquired a lot of users. Because they have a lot of users, whatever design philosophy that they've been following has become like an industry standard,
right. In the
right?
space of
And
fantasy domain, right,
yeah, in the space of fantasy domain, and that's what, because other companies would have to educate the user again. They're rather saying, okay, what there's already an existing philosophy, let's just have it, and then start acquiring users because it's easier to acquire than or acquire and educate is
right.
much
Right,
difficult.
that's the case, and this has been going through since of years of different applications that are coming. Every year, there's a new application coming in the domain of fantasy. What they do is they
Hmm.
just stick to what principles already has been set by these major companies, for example, Dream 11,
Right.
and they try to create or design the application around the thing that is already there.
Got it. How big is this market in terms of trading of players, right? Something like stock market, kind of an idea. How big is this market?
So basically, this is not as big as the earlier like team building thing is already there in the market. But it is coming up. There is also competitors like Sixer and other applications that are already in the similar domain. So uh, in order to understand how this works, maybe a year or so would be needed by the people to understand that this is also a fantasy application wherein you can put in your efforts and gain maximize profits out of it. So this is not that big as compared to the already existing thing that is there in the market with respect to fantasy. But yeah, the future is like, if you could uh, groom this product well enough to educate and understand people, this would be a next thing that the people would be interested to put their money into.
Got it. And I think moving on the last bit, right? How do you think, is, let's say, if a new designer were to get into a design industry today, right? largely there are a lot of consumer facing apps, so it's easier to build a consumer facing product,
Right.
right? Be a consumer facing designer also. And it's difficult to, I think, become a B2B designer because of the users lack of availability of users, right?
Right.
In this space. So let's say if someone's starting from scratch,
Hmm.
right, how do you educate that person to build their design career?
Okay, so if someone is coming into this field, they basically need to understand, are they they have interest enough of understanding what design is and how design works. They might, I mean, every person in their life might be associated with some or the other design here and there. So they need to understand, if you want to come into UX or product design, they have to know that there has to be some reason on putting up elements on a canvas. You cannot just go put a button there, go put a field here. So there is always a reason behind creating certain elements on a product. So that reason needs to be understood before you come into the picture of UX design or product design. Okay, before that, I would also like to clear what UX or UI design is. So this would give a clear,
Right.
differentiation of how things work here. So basically, UX design is making a product easy to use, or in larger terms, if you would say, effective and efficient at the same time. And UX design is not just about making, things look pretty. So you need to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. And sketches and wireframes aren't even the half of it. You just have to, create things that are having reasons behind it while you undergo design scenarios or design phases. And basically, it's all about the user's requirements. You need to understand those and what are the problems the user is facing. You have to analyze on around the things that the user is facing. So there are many articles, and even uh, this boot camps running around on making users understand, or making the people that are coming into UX design, make them understand what user-centric design is or how this works. But apart from that, you need to understand that the product that you are coming up with have to suffice the needs of the end user as well as the business that you're working with, because you are coming up with a product that the end user would be using, but at the same time there should be a revenue generation for your business at the other end. So you have to have both the skills of both these two skills of people skills as well as technical skills. And as a UX or a product designer, you will be a bridge between these two. You have to understand the end user's goals, what is his requirements, and keep him in between of your process of UX or product design, and understand that the product that the end user would be using is the ultimate one. But at the same time, you also have to understand the business goals, the requirements that you will be setting with respect to the scope that you have been given for the product. And understanding these two skills, the people skills and the technical skills, you have to always juggle between these two to cope up with the things that will be coming up when you develop or design a product. So this is basically how you go ahead with UX design. And the problem here is, like, it's not just about solving the problems. Keeping the user in the center of the process is like you are stepping into his shoes. So
Right.
basically that is what UX design is. And majority of the users, people coming into this domain, go with the title UX UI design, UX/UI design. So these things
Yeah.
happen, but there is a distinct differentiation between these two. UX is different and UI is different. UI may be a sub part of UX. What UI is basically is, it's connected or concerned with effective layout of visual elements that you put up on the canvas.
Right.
So
Yeah.
this is mostly related with how the interface would look to the end user. And UX design is like people first. You have to make people come first in your process, and it's about what motivates them, how they think and behave. So all these things you have to understand with respect to the product that are coming up in the market. So this is basically it. If you think you are good with people, you understand how people think about it, you are good at communicating or understanding the end users' needs, and at the same time you have some technical background, that would be a plus point as well. If you have some technical background and you try to inculcate those technical skills, if you have these two, then I would say you would be a better UX person if you are coming into this domain.
Awesome. I think, Rahul, we've had like a crisp, short
Right.
conversation. I would love to go deeper into a longer conversation and talk about fantasy cricket, fantasy gaming, part of the world, and other problem statements as well. But for now, thanks so much for your time. For now, it's been like a good conversation, a healthy one that we've
Right.
got. Hopefully, we'll connect in the future
Thank you,
again.
Salil. Thank you so much for inviting me again. And I hope this conversation was fruitful and people hearing this would, definitely would have a understanding of how things work in this domain. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Per- Perfect, perfect. All right,
Yeah.
bye.